Hello everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show with me, Barry Holmes. I'm super excited to be here on a Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. I know it's Good Friday and we got Easter Sunday coming up, so it's just definitely a special weekend, but I'm just happy to be here. I know it's been, like I said, it's difficult with the times that we're in, but it's that much more important for us to spend time with the family and to do the things again that we want to do, right? Especially in a quarantine time, you have to get a little bit creative as far as the things that we're doing to entertain ourselves, right? And I think a little bit about this episode that's going to be coming up here, episode 48, I believe it is now. Shout out to the Talk That Talk Show. We're 48 episodes strong. Talk that talk! That's right. So I think a little bit about this episode is going to be a little bit in depth, or some of the things that are happening around us with different people that are trying to get creative with the situations that we're in, right? Just because there isn't exactly sports on the TV doesn't mean there aren't sports-related things that are happening, right? And everything that happens in this world can always be related back to ourselves when we are reflective, right? So I'm definitely excited for some of the content that we're going to have here on the show. Our last episode, the TRL episode, we had so much good positive feedback from people saying how much they love the TRL aspect and how they were saying about how they want to see more of that incorporated in the upcoming days, upcoming episodes, I should say. So we're going to try to schedule in there at least once a month moving forward, where we'll do a TRL episode where it'll just be me answering all the questions that you guys have had for us out there. And definitely got to give a special shout out to our sponsors. Executive Bar and Restaurant, located in Carteret, New Jersey. Big shout out to my boy Prashant. He's got some of the best food, best drinks in the game. Shout out to my boy Cody Bromley at 91s.com. Got the best acid wash apparel in the game. I know a lot of people are shopping on Amazon, and they're doing a whole bunch of online shopping because they got, I guess, these Trump bucks coming in. So you definitely want to go check out the 91s.com and check out some of the stuff he has going on there. And then also, we got to give a big special sponsorship shout out to VW Liquors, located in Wick Plaza, Edison, New Jersey. I went there before the show today and picked up, my beer of the week, or, the beer that I was going to be drinking here on the show. And this one that I had today was one that I picked up a 6-pack of I think a couple days ago, and it went so quick in our house. So, there was no other option for me than to get this beer to showcase on the show. So, this beer that I actually have for everybody out there listening in, I got a Sierra Nevada wild little thing, a slightly sour ale. And I'm not really one for like the sour ales or the tartish type of beers, but this kind of like struck out to me. And when I actually poured it in the glass, I think it was my brother that actually mentioned, he's like, it kind of looks like soda, right? So it was just so delicious. I think some of the ingredients they have here is guava, hibiscus, and strawberry. I mean, those three together in a beer, I mean, who could not want to have that? So that's the beer that I'm going to be drinking here today. Got it from VW Liquors, so big shout out to VW Liquors. Love those guys, especially Dave. We're going to shout him out at the end of the show. But we got a great lineup for you. Shout out to Andrew James Lynch on the stream, Clay Price, Ethan Bayer, Danny Rose, Jeff Farrell, Antoine Jefferson. We got a lot of people here on the stream, so I always want to thank you as always. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Talk That Talk Show. We are at 50 subscribers. Big shout out to everybody that's continuing in to share with your friends, and you're keeping in on tuning into these episodes. I'm trying to do my best to get them out as quick as possible. I had one of my friends heckling me, literally blowing my phone up, said I need that episode tonight because they had missed the live stream. So, that continued support is always, always valued and always appreciated. So thank you everybody that tunes in each week. And we're going to get really started into this show. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, or one of the things that I had saw, was the fact that, the XFL has a staff layoff, right? So kind of a similar situation that I'm in at my previous employer, where we got furloughed and they said that there's no guarantee as far as our job security or if we'll even have a job based off of whatever restructuring is going to happen, right? So here you have the XFL, who's in a similar situation to where, they laid all of their staff off. And I think this is very, very important because I think a lot of the times leading up to the whole Corona stoppage, there was a lot of positive reviews about the XFL. I mean, if you look back at our episode, My Valentine Is Me, me and Bobby talked about just, the prospects of just what this league has meant for NFL and for football in general. I mean, you had a couple players, I think the guy Tamu, who's a quarterback, and then the guy PJ Washington, who really excelled in that league, who now went on to go to the NFL, right? So the XFL was really culminating into a nice feeder system for the NFL. And I think that, a lot of the people out there were very excited about this product that was out there, but it's just very sad to see that this coronavirus has now stopped that to where you have to lay off all of these workers, and now we don't even know if the XFL is going to be here next year, right? So, I think that this, that big statement there of them saying that they're laying off all their staff, that's one thing, all right? But it's another thing to say that you don't know what the future is going to entail for this franchise or for this league, right? And, I'm just very saddened to hear these news because, I was somebody that, I have a friend, Troy Anthony, shout out to Troy Anthony, who had gotten his start in doing some sports reporting, and he was covering those XFL games. And I saw the excitement. I saw, him super motivated and doing great content from the XFL, and I was enjoying it. I saw, if you didn't get a chance, check out his interview with Matt McGloin, who was the ex-Penn State quarterback, who's the quarterback for our New York Guardians. But, I was really enjoying the content that was, getting put out from the XFL. And, I'm really interested to see, what's going to happen as far as if there's even going to be an XFL next year. When you talk about a lot of these other leagues, and I think something that somebody had said, I don't know if it was Trump, or I heard something in the news where they said that, these leagues were not made to stop, right? Or they did not have like the fail-safes, or they weren't designed to stop. And I thought that was actually pretty crazy to think about because in a lot of these professional leagues, we've had the NBA who's endured multiple lockouts. You've had the MLB who's had player strikes, and then we've also had, definitely the NHL lockouts as well too. So when I hear that, these professional leagues are not, how can I say, equipped to stop, it bugs me out. And this XFL thing is a representation right then and there. But, when and if we ever do get a chance to have, football back, whether it's this year, in the next couple months, I know the off season's going on, but one of the topics that was out here in the news was the fact that, Drew Brees is actually going to join in the broadcasting booth, right? We saw recently where we had Jason Witten, who tried to go into the Monday night booth or Sunday night booth or whatever it was, and he was getting ripped on social media, and a lot of football viewers were not fans of Jason Witten, right? So now we have another player, but in Drew Brees, who's now signed a contract with the NBC Sports, or the deal is pretty much set in stone that whenever he is done, he is going to go and broadcast games for NBC Sports. And just because we saw not really the success with Jason Witten, or more noticeably Booger McFarland, everybody's been ripping him because they said that he's somebody that states the obvious. But, you have somebody in Tony Romo who's shown that, ex-players, especially players that maybe just had gotten out, are just as equipped as some of our top, broadcasters out there. So, I'm very excited to see if Drew Brees is going to be a great broadcaster because, Monday Night Football, it's something that everybody looks forward to, especially during the work week. Just to be able to see, Drew Brees and to get inside of his head, right? This is one of the most cerebral players because he didn't have the height advantage that a lot of these other quarterbacks did. So he had to use that brain. So I'm very interested to hear his analysis. And it's kind of cool how they're going to try and bring him in when he does go in. We all know that Notre Dame is sponsored or whatever by the NBC, or they have all their games televised. They have some sort of contract, right? So they're going to actually have him as a game analyst inside of those games, right? So you're going to be looking, if you're a Notre Dame fan, I know my boy Pat Callahan, shout out to you from Virginia. I know he was a big fan of them, so let's see. You're going to see how you like Drew Brees potentially calling your games at Notre Dame, right? One of the other things that we had talked about too, also we want to give a big shout out to my boy Lucas Leandro, Josh Williams, Chris Higgins, Matt Kuyunjin, my brother Tyree Holmes, Brian Fellows, Ryan Mackey, Scott Schick, Javon Campbell. Oh, the Facebook is booming today. Thank you so much, everybody. But one of the things that I talked to my father about was the fact that, bowling is kind of, how can I say, we don't know if it's going to be the same. I know we're talking about a lot of these different sports that have closed down and they have shut down. But, bowling is something that is very near and dear to me. The shirt that I'm wearing on right now was supposed to be our national shirt. And that trip got canceled because of the fact of this coronavirus. We were supposed to fly out 4/20, I think it was, of this month to go to Reno for the national tournament. Would have been my first ever time at nationals. And, who knows if that's going to even happen in August or anytime soon for that matter. So, we were very sad about that because we were looking forward to that trip. I know Brian Scholar had asked on the previous episode, what was my favorite sports moment, and easily it was one of the times, like I said, bowling with my father, and that was something that we were really looking forward to as far as experiencing and competing together with, right? But one of the things that my father had said that kind of resonated with me and actually made me think was that, how is this going to then affect the leagues moving forward as far as if and when we ever do return back, right? So one of the things that, we've saw is we've had strict regulations and, we had the social distancing. But now when you think about, life past, the corona, you're starting to see, what that could maybe look like as far as, playing games without fans. And, we as bowlers don't really exactly have the fans, like you could say, right? But, we're a very congested area. And one of the things my father said was, I don't even know if we're going to have 5-man teams anymore. And it was just such a crazy, wild thing to think it to me about because, when we're in the pit there, it sometimes you're not sitting, you're standing, you're on top of people. And that could be the easiest way to, I guess, spread this thing, right? So I think as far as preventative measures, you might see that, these leagues might not be at 5-man teams anymore. You might get broken down into triples leagues or doubles leagues, and that's it. And that's something that I'm hopefully not looking forward to because, my 5-man teams on Wednesday and Thursday of this past season, it was just so much fun. It was something that I look forward to each and every week. I mean, shout out to my boy Rick Chanowski or whatever. He was somebody that ran all the pots at the Majestic League, and when we transferred over from Woodbridge to the Majestic lanes, he was somebody that really made it fun for us over there. And, each bowling alley has its own, culture and its own feel to it, and it's just something that I miss a lot. But, when we think about, there potentially not being 5-man teams, you got to think about even the participation level of these leagues. You're going to have people that might not even want to participate. And that's what really, really gets you worried, right? And then when I look forward to it past bowling, right, I actually saw an article from Seton Hall, and they did a study. They did a sports study with a size of about 762 approximately, right? So we can't say that they got 10 guys off the street. This isn't a biased opinion. They took a large sample size at Seton Hall, and one of the things that they said from this study is that 72% of people, right? So 72% of the people that polled for this question, the question was, would you go to sports events if there was not a vaccine for the coronavirus, right? So out of all the people that were polled, 72% of people said that they would not go to stadiums, right? I know my boy, I don't know if it was Theo or Jeff or Reese, somebody joked on the Xbox today when we were talking about this. And they were saying, I'm not going to risk my life to go watch LeBron, and thinking about it, right? Quarantine, shout out to Theo. But one of the things that when we talk about this is like, even if we do have, the stadiums opening up and you have people that are coming to watch the games, who's to say that people are even going to want to come to watch these games? And this poll specifically says it when they're saying that 72 people would not go to see a game without a vaccine. So this just shows you the type of fear that, this has put in the general public out here, and it's justified. I mean, to be completely honest, I saw something out there, and it said that blacks and Hispanics are more deadly, or it's more likely for us to get the virus, right? And we have more reported cases than a lot of these other races. And for somebody who lives in the epicenter, really, of this in New Jersey, where we're second largest in the country, I mean, it's scary to live out here, man. As a black person living in Jersey, you're high. It's a high chance of maybe potentially getting it. And when I talked on the last couple episodes, I had spoken about how I didn't have anybody that I knew that was directly affected by this. And, over this past week, I've had my cousin who'd lost his life from the coronavirus. Shout out to Rudy Johnson. He was lost by so many in this bowling community and so well respected. My father talked about how, he made him the bowler that he is, right? And, I had somebody in my manager who tested positive for the coronavirus. So shout out to Henry. I saw he's posted a picture saying that he's doing pretty good and, he's feeling better, him and his fiance. So this is, now you're starting to see more, with more cases, we're starting to see more of a personal impact and a direct impact, and people that are really suffering from this. And, when you think about it, it's really tough to see how we are adapting as people, how the systems around us are adapting, and just, how things are going to look, past this, right? I mean, just for right now, we're worrying about surviving, let alone how we're going to set up things, whether it's be jobs or different, sports events. It just seems really crazy when, and the bottom of the line is this is a very deadly disease, right? So I'm just very blessed to be able to come here each week and deliver this show. God willing, as long as I'm healthy, I'm going to continue to, have this show with y'all. And I'm going to continue to have beer because that's what I like to.
Talk that talk and drink it too.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things that I saw that was pretty interesting, that was from, I guess, a player's standpoint from being affected by the coronavirus. We talked before about how a lot of the staff workers have been laid off and losing their jobs. We talked about, how this has affected certain players, how they've reached out and tried to, support and to be that person, to stand up and help these people that not necessarily have that chance, right? But we had a situation where we had CJ McCollum, who went on a show, I think it's called The Boardroom, and Jay Williams, who facilitated that show. And they pretty much talked about how this is directly affecting NBA players, right? And one of the things that I was interested to hear that CJ McCollum said, which kind of bugged me out, because at the end of the day, right now I'm unemployed right now. It's not, not financially as successful or feeling the way that I should be right now. Dealing with not having a job, not having any type of concrete future in place, right? So I totally feel with those workers out there, and I also feel for the people that have lost their jobs. And one of the things that we saw with the NBA is that they did say that they are going to pay their players in full, which I was very happy about. But still within that, CJ McCollum said that they're out of 450 players in the NBA, about 150 of them are still living paycheck to paycheck. Out of 450 players in the NBA, he estimates that at about close to 1/3 of them are living paycheck to paycheck. And we think about some of these contracts where you have people that are making millions of dollars. I mean, I think veterans minimum is about $800,000. So I mean, it's really crazy to think that with all the money that these players are accumulating, whether it be in endorsement deals, whether it be with team outings,
reduce the posse.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's very interesting to see that we still have people that are mismanaging our money. I mean, I think when you look at, Allen Iverson, right? He was somebody that really struggled with managing the money, and how you see they had the trust fund for him, right, with Reebok. You're seeing a lot of play, like if you've seen, like, what's his name, with Curry. I think Eddie Curry, I saw he was, really struggling. And when these players are elevated and getting these big contracts, they're trying to support their friends. They're trying to support their families. They're trying to ball out. They're not making the best financial decisions. I mean, we saw LaMelo Ball last episode, and we talked about how he decided to buy the Australian basketball team, right? So that's not like it's a car, or it's not something with depreciating value. You're investing in something that can, last longer than a season, last longer than 10 seasons, right? I think they call it like residual income, right? Or something like that. And we have these NBA players that are not exuding that same principles, or not making financial, stability a priority. And that's what's so crazy to me. And I looked in this, this article, and I'm hearing that, 1/3 of the NBA is living paycheck to paycheck. And that's crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy to me. I mean, I'm somebody who I'm still paying a lot in student loans, I'm not exactly making the greatest amount, like I said, I'm unemployed. So I can understand why I maybe be living paycheck to paycheck, right? But you got an NBA player who, has pretty much everything you could ask for in these contracts, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck. So I think especially if there's anything that we can see out of this whole coronavirus thing as far as these NBA players, there has to be some sort of routes or some sort of thing set up in place for these players to be able to have some sort of financial advisors, or have meetings, or have workshops, or set up things for people to be, or NBA players to be able to manage their money well, right? I mean, if you're, 21, 19, 20 years old, and you just get 20 million, it might seem like you got 20, you can buy anything you want. But it's just so crazy to think how these young players and a lot of these NBA players can really vacate a fund like that very quickly, right? So, I think that CJ McCollum, it was a very interesting quote. If you get a chance, definitely check out that show, Boardroom, because I was very interested about that. And also, one of the things that we have seen, beyond a lot of the effects directly with players and, monetarily, we're starting to see that a lot of these leagues are starting to get a lot more creative in how they're starting to market themselves, right? We saw that the NBA did the 2K tournament. I saw Pat Bev is still in it. My boy Jeffrey Farrell called it. So I think you got Patrick Beverly, DeAndre Ayton still in it. What's the one guy? Montrezl Harrell still in it. And I think Devin Booker. So that's going to be the finals for the NBA 2K tournament. But I think that was cool because you got to see that these players, again, are just like some of us that play 2K or play video games out there. So I thought that was really dope. And one of the things that we've started to also see beyond that is that we're starting to see that some of these teams or some of these leagues are starting to produce leagues, right? We saw that the NASCAR did a virtual event where one guy rage quit and wound up losing his sponsorship. So even though it seems kind of like, virtual, it's a little like funny, a little fishy, it's still very serious, right? And there's a lot of marketing that could be had from these type of opportunities. And when I looked at what the MLB is looking to do, here we're seeing that, spring training is more than likely done. It's finished. There's not going to be any baseball in that realm. So what they decided to do was take a player from each MLB team, and they've created an MLB The Show virtual league. I think they said it's going to be, a total of 29 games. It's going to last till like the end of April. And they're going to play out They're going to play out games, and all these games are going to be streamed on the Twitch accounts of the players. I think from the Mets being represented is Jeff McNeil. So shout out to Jeff McNeil. But I think it's really interesting that, we have these leagues and these different sports organizations that are turning to video games to still, put out their content and push their product, right? And it's really a creative idea, and it's something that, we've seen in esports before with regular people, but it's pretty interesting to see now that you have some of your, favorite players. I mean, a lot of people were excited to see Trae Young playing in that NBA 2K tournament. But I think out of all of the leagues that are going to benefit the most out of this, we shout out to Emily Elizabeth, Jesse DeVento, Frank Manarino, Corey Thomas, Mary Beth Heaney, Theodore Mahan, Jonathan Hamilton, Kevin Rosa, the GOAT. But I think out of all of the different leagues that are going to benefit the most from the video game aspect of it, I think MLB stands to win the most out of this. Because if you look at the MLB, I mean, unless you're a diehard Mets fan or somebody, you're not going to really know what Jeff McNeil looks like. I mean, who really knows what Michael Conforto looks like if you're not a Mets fan? Or, a lot of people like, what's his name, the pitcher, Justin Verlander. He was a huge pitcher that everybody likes. But do you know what he looks like, right? So I think that the one thing about baseball is tough is they've had a hard time, like, marketing their stars and marketing their superstars. And I think that if you add that video game aspect in there, you're able to then market these players and show their personality a little bit. I know that there was a big thing about the MLB also about, being a traditional sport, and they're all up in arms about not bat flipping and how baseball hasn't been traditionally progressive. And I think this is huge for baseball if they're going to continue to try and compete with the NBAs of the world and the NFLs of the world that don't even need to, that can stand to miss a little bit. I think that, with the MLB, they're, as America's pastime, this is going to be very interesting to see how they're able to move through this. And, with this potential league, I think this is awesome and a great step in the right direction towards baseball being more of a progressive sport, right? I saw through SNY, I don't know if any Mets fans out there, they saw that the MLB actually televised a simulation Mets game through SNY. So they actually, put the Mets against the Astros. They televised it on SNY. They got the whole gang, Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling, and they televised that game as if it was a regular game. And I thought that was pretty cool, for not having the exact games to watch and everything. It was definitely a different switch up. And even in a simulation, they still found a way to take a stab or take a jab at the Astros. I think Gary Cohen was saying about how the stadium was really quiet, and if you got the chance, you might hear some trash can banging. So I thought that was really hilarious because we all know how they had the sign stealing scandal.
Boo!
But it's really interesting to see, again, how these different leagues are starting to try and adapt to the trend and to having, no baseball or no football or no basketball, right? How are you going to market your players? How are you going to market your product so that fans are still hungry for it, right? And I think that video games are definitely an interesting outlet because you can reach so many different people. I mean, you look at some of the video games that are played and you got them range from, 8 years old to, people that are in their 60s, 70s playing games, right? So I think it's definitely a way to bridge the gap between the masses. And I think that that's something that the MLB is desperately looking for. So, I'm definitely excited to see how that can materialize. I'm excited to see if maybe some of these other, teams or other leagues that have maybe done tournaments like the NBA, would they then switch to maybe having a league, right? So that's just something that we're going to have to come to see. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of time on our hands in this quarantine. Quarantine. Hold up. Shout out to my boy Tory Lanez. If anybody has not had a chance to see what this guy's doing, we're talking about creativity. This guy is having twerk competitions on IG Live with some of the most famous of, influencers, you could say. And he had me dying, man. I mean, he had the one kid from New York on a soundbite. He's like, "Oh, say less." If you see that one, but he really had me dying. I think he had the one girl K Cash on there, and he told her guidelines. So shout out to Tory Lanez. If you get a chance and he's on IG Live, definitely check that out. But it's an interesting marketing method, right? So even within this coronavirus, you have somebody like Tory Lanez who, for some people, wasn't exactly as liked by a lot of people, right? Some people viewed him as, cocky and, not exactly having the greatest music. But now you have a situation where in a corona, you're not able to go to club. And you got Tory Lanez who's, DJing and making this club atmosphere. He had a sponsorship by Ciroc. He had bottle girls in here. So I just thought it was really crazy and really creative how this marketing is starting to unfold with this whole coronavirus, right? I mean, the guy is releasing his album, or he just released his album last night, and, it's without question that a lot of these twerk competitions that he's been putting on Instagram have been a huge reason why a lot of people are starting to listen to his music. I mean, I talked to Jeff today, and my boy Jeff said, you know what? He actually has some quality music. And would he have really listened to it if it wasn't for these twerk competitions, right? So it's really interesting to see, like, again, how the creativity is starting to come and unfold with this whole corona. But one of the things I wanted to talk about before I get off the air is, we did talk about video games and how that's affecting some of these sports, organizations. But one of the things that I, like to do is I like to try different video games. I'm a huge gamer. And one of the things that my brother had suggested to me that I didn't think I was going to like, but I've been liking a lot, is Animal Crossing. I thought it was a kiddie game. I thought it was something that I wasn't going to enjoy. I'm like, this is stupid. But, I saw that my friend Peter had it. My boy Jeff was loving it. Not Jeff, my brother Tyree was loving it. I've heard a lot of good things. And when I got a chance to actually sit down and play the Animal Crossing, it was really refreshing. Like, there's not really any objectives. They're not really telling you, hey, go here, do this. Or you're competing against this guy. I am literally farming. I'm chopping down trees. I'm fishing. It's just, it's a different place to go to. And I think that when I talked about reading books, I like reading them and escaping to a place that isn't here right now, right? And Animal Crossing gives you that. You're able to go and, do some of the things that you might not be able to do. And it was a different experience. And it's something that I've enjoyed, with my Switch. So definitely, if I had to give a suggestion to anybody out there that's looking for a new game to play, I would definitely suggest trying out that Animal Crossing. It's definitely a cool game. But, one of the crazy things that I also saw is that, with this whole Corona stuff, now you're starting to see a supply and demand. And I was so excited and so happy that I was able to get my Switch years ago. Because now, when you're starting to see that people are inside, they're going to want a game. I mean, Animal Crossing just came out, so people want to play that game. So now you're starting to see supply and demand. And it's so crazy that places are taking advantage of this, right? $200 more money just to get a Switch, which is crazy. It's crazy. You have places that are sold out. You can't even get them. Can't even buy them online. So, the supply and demand aspect has definitely been exploited because of this coronavirus. I mean, I went to the store just the other day, and they have people selling masks in there for $3 a mask, which is crazy. You have a store selling individual masks, which I don't think is very clean because it was just hanging up on the glass. So I don't even know if you would get corona just for buying this mask, right? But it's just crazy to see how different things are exploited from the supply and demand of this stuff, right? So, it's just, it as a whole, it's definitely something that we're all not used to, but it's just so crazy to see how all the different trickle-down effects that have happened from this thing that we're dealing with, right? So, for everybody out there, please do what you need to do, whether it's social distancing, whether it's, masking up, doing whatever you need to do. Please, I don't want to see anybody else saying that they contract this virus. I don't want to see people, out in groups. A lot of things I see people on Facebook, and they're not practicing the social distancing. And that's not cool, because I'm trying to go outside. All right? I want to go. I want to have fun with my friends. All right? I want to go party a little bit. I've been stuck inside for so long. So let's all please practice the social distancing, because, I'm dying inside, man. I want to go play. I want to shoot some I never thought I'd appreciate, shooting basketball, and, you can't even shoot anymore, right? Because they took all the nets down at the courts. So, I'm ready for this to just be over, man. So, we just have to be positive and do the right things so we can all get back outside. So that is this episode of the Talk That Talk Show. Thank you, everybody that was tuned in. I think we had like almost 20 people in the thread today. Shout out to Milk McNeish, Jim Barrett, Abe Galama. Yo, Abe Galama, you're going to have to chill on Facebook, bro. I saw you made Darius pretty pissed. He might want to knock your block off, man. You got to chill, Abe. Shout out to Donnie Lee, Stephen Baum, Jesse DeVento. We had a great episode here. I love everybody out there. A shout out to my boy Jonathan Hamilton. I want to get back to bowling too, brother. Like I said, I had this nice jersey on, the B Holmes. I was so excited to wear it, but it might not look like we're wearing it too soon. But we just gotta stay positive, stay productive, and we'll all get through this. All right, we're gonna get through this. It might not be in June. It might not be in July. I might turn 30 in quarantine. All right, this is a realistic possibility, but. Whatever it takes, because we're going to beat this, and we got to beat this together, all right? So shout out to our sponsors, VW Liquors, located in Wick Plaza, Edison, New Jersey. Let's go, Mets! Let's go, Mets! I had a Sierra Nevada wild little thing, slightly sour ale. Got that from VW Liquors, so shout out to them. Look. Oh, man, that's so good. So please... if you get a chance, check out that beer. Hey, Dad. Look. Can I get another one? Woo! I need another one. Woo! Thank you. I needed another one. And then also shout out to Executive Bar and Restaurant located in Carteret, New Jersey. And then also 91s.com. They got the best Asher Wash apparel in the game. Check them out at 91s Co. on Instagram. And then for all of this other stuff that you want to check out, whether it's on YouTube, check us out on YouTube at Talk That Talk Show. We're at 50 subscribers. Every single day we want to try and get a different subscriber. So please subscribe in, tune in. We're going to post these episodes there. Also check us out on Instagram, _Talk That Talk Show. You can check us out, follow us. You'll see some clips on there. Also check us out on our Twitter page, at Talk That Talk SH1. Follow us. We're going to put all of our, different content on there. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, you name it. We're on it, all right? Like I said, we're 48 episodes in. I'm going to keep trying to get you the content that you want to hear. Every week, you're going to have something to look forward to. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. When all the days look the same, you start to see that same routine. But just know, if you can get through the week, if you can just get through, every Friday, you will have the Talk That Talk Show from me. And that is a promise.
Promise?
You might not know what you're going to hear about that day, but from the bottom of my heart, you will know that you're going to have an episode of the Talk That Talk Show every Friday. And shout out to you, Sean. I miss you a lot too, brother. Back to our Millerville days, man. I miss you, brother. Chilling with Cheddar Bob and, playing 100 Cup Pong, man. We got to link up one of these days, brother. So, again, thank you to everybody that tuned in. Your support means the world to me. I love you all. Practice the freaking social distancing, all right? Do it. And we're going to get through this together one day at a time. So if everybody has your beer out there, just put your beer up and cheers up, because the Talk That Talk Show is here every Friday, 7 p.m., and we're going to survive together.
Talk that talk!
And I'll see you all next week.